Here we're back with part 2 and the two extreme types of elasticity. One is known as perfectly inelastic and the other one is perfectly elastic. So perfectly inelastic, we talked about the fact that a demand that's steeper is more inelastic. Well, perfectly elastic will be as steep as you can get, just a vertical line. So say this is demand D1. That demand will be perfectly inelastic. If the price is at here, P1, or here at P2, or here at whatever, P3, the quantity demanded is the same, QD1. It does not change at all. It does not stretch at all. There is no stretch at all in the quantity demanded. So it's not just inelastic, it is perfectly inelastic. Mathematically up here, because there is no change in the quantity demanded, it's going to be 0. Down here we have percent change in price. It could be whatever it is, doesn't matter. 0 over any number is 0. So we said that a number less than 1 is going to be inelastic, and we only have positive numbers, and so the most you can get away from a or non-negative number, I should say, the furthest we can get away from a 1 without being negative would be 0, if you're going to get as small as possible. And so 0 would be perfectly inelastic. What type of good would be like that? Well, some people like to say maybe electricity, gasoline, but no, that's not true. If the price of electricity does go up, we're still going to use electricity, but we're still going to cut back. So you might, be more careful about the lights, turn them off. If the price of gasoline goes up, you still would buy gasoline for some reasons like going to work, taking your mother to the hospital, but you would cut back on, say, trips to the beach, trips to the shopping mall, if we ever go back to shopping malls, things like that. And so those would be highly inelastic, but not perfectly. Perfectly means when the price goes up, you need this product. So whatever it is, you're going to keep buying it. So some kind of a medication that keeps you alive. Without this medication, you would die. Maybe if you're diabetic, and therefore the demand for insulin will look like this. No matter what the price is, you would find a way to pay it. Or if you are a strong addiction, maybe you have addiction to, say, some type of opiate, which is a serious problem in this country right now, that people are willing to pay any price to get their daily amount of their drug, unfortunately. But the demand for those kind of products would be perfectly inelastic, which is why the manufacturers love to sell them to people, because, again, they're willing to pay any price. Very sad situation with the opiate pandemic. And then perfectly elastic is the opposite case, is when your demand is flat, horizontal. So here, the price is not going to change. So the price is always P1. And so if you're going to sell, say, Q1 amount, or you're going to sell Q2 amount, or Q3 amount, they're all going to be at the same price. This would be a case of someone selling an item in a very, very competitive market. For example, if you want to sell shares of stock in the stock market, that's the demand for your shares. If you have maybe 2 shares of, say, some company stock, 4 shares, 6 shares, and you want to sell your shares, no matter how many shares you're going to sell, they're all going to be sold at the same price. And that price is set by the market. So whatever the market says the current going rate is for the shares that you own, they're all going to be sold, no matter how many you're going to put on the market, they're all going to be sold at the same price. In this case, you have no discretion over the price at all. You are a price taker in this case. And that would be the demand for anyone selling something who is a price taker. And that would be the case, sorry about that, and that would be the case for, again, selling shares of stock, selling agricultural products, things like that. So again, if you're going to sell this amount, 2 shares, 4 shares, or 6 shares, they're all going to be sold at the same price, P1. Now, mathematically, what number do we have here? Well, in this case, the denominator is going to be 0. And no matter what is in the numerator, no matter how many shares you're going to sell, or units of, say, bushels of wheat you're going to sell, the price change is going to be 0. Now, I know in a math course they'll tell you this is undefined, but economists like to look at it this way. Let's say the price is not 0 per se, but it's approaching 0. And so, for example, if I would take 1 divided by, say, 1, that would be 1. If I take 1 divided by 0.1, that would be a dime goes in a dollar 10 times. And if I take 1 divided by, say, 0.01, a penny, you get 100. A penny goes in a dollar 100 times. I go 1 over 0.001, that'll give you 1,000. So every time I add a decimal point in the numerator approaching 0, it makes the whole number get larger. Well, imagine me taking 1 and dividing that by 0.00000. If I keep doing this, every 0 I add, it makes the number larger by a magnitude of 10. How long can I do this? Forever. So by doing this, I'm approaching the largest number possible, which is infinity. So we say the elasticity of demand for a demand which is horizontal is infinity, and that means it's perfectly elastic. And that means you are going to be a price taker in this market. And we'll talk more about this when we get to the chapter on competition. Now, what are the reasons for being elastic or inelastic? And so these are the determinants of whether your demand is going to be elastic or inelastic. And the first one is substitutes. And it's pretty simple. If you have lots of good substitutes, you have lots of choice, then if the price goes up on you, you can go somewhere else. So this tends to mean that the demand is going to be more inelastic if you have few choices, and more elastic if you have more choices. So few choices means the sellers have the upper hand, and so if they raise the price, you have less places to go to find substitutes, and therefore most of the customers will stay. So down here we have gasoline, salt, water, and electricity. If the gasoline goes up in price, and this is all gas stations, not just one, but if all gas stations go up in price, what are you going to do? You're in trouble. You can cut back on some gallons of gas, but again, you have some types of driving you still have to do. Salt. Hard to find substitutes for salt. There are the spices, but it's not the same as salt, so the price of salt goes up. Again, we're sort of in a bind. Price of water goes up. We can cut back on some water. The water, maybe you drive down, you wash down the driveway, things like that. But again, we need water for cooking, taking a shower, flushing the toilet, washing doing the laundry. And again, electricity, we can cut back somewhat, but again, there's really little alternative that we have for electricity. And so these all tend to be more inelastic. If you have many good substitutes, you go somewhere else, then to raise the price, you can go buy another seller's products. So in this case, maybe just shell gasoline. So it really depends a lot on how we define the market. If the market is defined broadly like all gasoline, that would tend to make it more inelastic. But take one particular brand of gasoline, then it becomes more elastic, because now you can go buy Chevron gas, you can go buy different brands of gas, you can go to Costco, and so forth. Price of pears go up, you can buy oranges, buy bananas, buy apples. Iced tea goes up, you can buy power drinks, you can buy soda, you can buy iced coffee, a lot of different choices there. So the more choice, all things being equal, it's going to be more elastic. Less choice, all things being equal, more inelastic. The next one is how much of your budget is taken up by this product. If a large amount is taken up by this product, then you care about its price because it has a big impact on your budget. So something like international flights, which are quite expensive, might cost you $1,000. That's a big chunk of your budget. So if there's a 10% increase in international flights, most likely we're going to say, well, not this year, but there's a sale. That would have a big impact on the consumers. iPhones are very expensive. If they go up in price by 10%, 20%, that can mean hundreds of dollars, and that could discourage a lot of customers. A new SUV is very expensive. The manufacturers love to sell these things because that's what they make the most profit on, but we're talking $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. So again, the price there has a big impact on the consumer's reactions. If the item has very little part of your budget, then you don't care about it. You don't care about the price as much. Toothpicks. I'm sure if I asked this in class, I asked you what is the current price of toothpicks. No one would know that because no one cares. First of all, the price of toothpicks is low, and second of all, we don't buy them very often. So apples are not going to be that very expensive. Apps go for $2 or $3. You can buy them from the app store. Again, have very little impact on your budget. Now again, this is relative to your income. So if someone like Bill Gates, he cares about nothing in terms of price. If he wants it, he buys it. So to Bill Gates, everything is toothpicks. And therefore, almost everything he faces is going to be inelastic. He doesn't care about the price. But if you're a starving, chafy student, everything to you is like iPhones. And so therefore, starving, chafy students, college students, well, more products would tend to be elastic to them. And for someone who's very wealthy, most products would be inelastic to them. So again, this is relative to your income. Luxury versus necessities. A luxury is a special product, a special purchase. You buy these things once in a while. It's not every day. So these don't need to be made. You can postpone these if you need to, or never buy them at all. So these are things that you would probably be affected if you can probably get a good deal on it. So if there's a big sale, say on, maybe you have a coupon, go to a nice restaurant, buy one entree, get a second one free. Theater tickets, they have a discount for college students. Computer games, they're giving you maybe buy 2 games, you get a third one free. That would have a big impact maybe on a lot of consumers, because again, you don't buy these things on a regular basis and you don't need to buy them. But if something is a necessity, then you really don't care about the price as much, because you need to buy these things on a regular basis. And these are things that are necessities for modern day life. And so things like toilet paper, that was a big item with the COVID shopping spree we did last spring. Electricity, necessity. Milk might be a necessity. Toothpaste, mouthwash, deodorant, coffee. Coffee to me, that's a necessity. Price of coffee goes up, I don't care. I'm still going to buy my coffee. So these are things that the price has little effect on you, and these tend to be more inelastic. Which also explains why advertising campaigns want to convince you that what they're selling is a necessity, because they can convince you need to buy what they're selling to be successful in modern day life, to be able to, get a job, be able to find dates, be able to make yourself stand out. Then therefore they can get you to buy these items and raise the price on you. Now down here I have a few products here that I'll start the lecture on, next one on, and just if you look at these right now, and maybe think about whether these things are going to be inelastic or elastic, and you can maybe prepare yourself maybe for a test question, because what I'll do on the test is I would say, okay, let's say I gave you salt, I give you electricity, I give you water, and I give you, say, restaurant meals. Which one would tend to be more elastic? And that's where I'll start with the next lecture.